Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Emma Delcroix is a young flight attendant from France. Her charming face, always neatly arranged blonde hair, and friendly smile make her a favorite among the passengers on the luxury airline where she works. However, behind that smile, Emma often feels empty. Her life seems perfect. Outside of work, she loves traveling around the world and enjoying a free, modern lifestyle. But inside her heart, there is an empty space that has not been filled. Emma loves her job because she feels that flying brings freedom. But there are moments when she feels like a bird that keeps flying without a definite destination. In the midst of her busy schedule, she often pondered, "Is this the only purpose of my life?" That day, Emma was assigned to a flight from Paris to Jakarta. This flight often carried passengers from various backgrounds, including many Muslim passengers. As usual, Emma went around the cabin to ensure the comfort of all passengers. She noticed an old man with a white beard, wearing traditional clothes, sitting near the window. The man was carrying a small bag containing books, which he held tightly as the plane started to take off. He closed his eyes while holding prayer beads in his hand. Emma thought it was normal, but there was something that attracted her to the calmness of the man, as if he was not bothered by the chaos around him. In the middle of the flight, the weather suddenly became stormy. The plane began to shake violently due to turbulence. The passengers started to panic. Some cried and others screamed. Emma tried to calm the passengers, but in her heart, she herself felt anxious. When she passed the old man's seat, she was shocked to see how calm he remained. His eyes were still closed, and his lips moved slowly, as if he was reading something. She could vaguely hear him saying something. The turbulence eventually subsided, and the plane managed to stabilize. The passengers clapped their hands in relief. Emma, however, couldn't shake off what she had witnessed. After the flight, Emma approached the old man out of curiosity and asked, "What were you saying during the turbulence?" The man smiled warmly and said, "I was praying, trusting everything to Allah. No matter what happens, He is in control." Emma was silent. The man's words kept ringing in her head. After their short conversation, she returned to her duties. However, her heart was already filled with endless questions. Who really is Allah? How can someone have such great faith? That was when the plane landed in Abu Dhabi. Emma felt something different inside her. Usually she felt relieved when the flight was over, but this time her mind was full of curiosity. When she walked through the plane door, she turned once more to the old man who smiled and waved. Could there be something bigger than all this? Thought Emma, while taking a deep breath. Without her realizing it, the turbulence in her life had just begun. After a long flight to Abu Dhabi, Emma stayed at a luxury hotel, which was usually a resting place for airline staff. But that night was different. Emma would usually enjoy her free time by reading light novels or watching movies. However, her mind was constantly filled with the short conversation she had with the old man on the plane. She sat on the balcony of her room, looking at the night sky full of stars. The night air felt warm, but her heart was filled with confusion. The old man's words kept spinning in her head. Allah, the Creator. He who controls the sky, the earth, and everything in between. Emma began to wonder, is it true that there is someone controlling all this? Why is he so sure? What makes him so calm in such a scary situation? Emma's curiosity grew stronger. She opened her laptop and began to type. The seeker of Allah is Allah. Her search led her to various articles and videos. One of the articles she read explained that Allah is God in the Islamic religion, the one God without any partners. Emma read with great attention, although she did not yet fully understand the concept. She found a verse of the Quran that caught her attention. Indeed, in the creation of the heavens and the earth, and the alternation of night and day, there are signs for those of understanding. The Quran, Surah Ali Imran. That verse made her think deeply. It felt as though the verse spoke directly to her. Emma was conflicted. What intrigued her the most was the certainty in the old man's words. She felt far away from such clarity, especially as her mother, though deeply devoted to Catholic traditions, had always discouraged her from questioning her faith. On one hand, Emma felt bound to her upbringing. On the other, she couldn't shake the feeling that her life had been empty and that she needed something more meaningful. Her journey of self-discovery had only just begun. On the other hand, she is afraid that her search will bring about big changes that will make her lose what she has achieved that night. Tid feels restless in her sleep. She dreamed that she was in a very dark place. She was walking aimlessly, groping for something in the distance. She saw a small, sparkling light. She tried to approach the light, but every time she took a step, the light seemed to get further away. In her dream, she heard a soft voice calling, "Seek the truth. I am always there for you." When Emma woke up, she was gasping for breath. Her heart was beating fast, and the dream felt so real. The light in her dream made her sure that she should continue her search. The next day, Em decided to find out more about Islam. She went back to reading articles and watching videos about this religion. One of the videos she found was about the Prophet Muhammad, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. She was surprised to learn that Prophet Muhammad was an ordinary human being, but his life was full of goodness and wisdom. She was attracted to the simple concept of Islam, worshiping one God, living in peace, and becoming a better person. But her fears and doubts had not completely disappeared. Before starting her next flight, Em put the translated Quran she had downloaded on her phone. She promised herself to keep reading and studying more, even though she didn't know where the journey would take her. As Emma sat in the cockpit of the plane, waiting for takeoff for the next route, she looked at the blue sky that stretched out before her. If this is a sign, then I will try to find out. Maybe out there is something bigger than me, she thought. With a heart that was still doubtful but full of curiosity, Emma began a journey that would change her life forever. Emma took a flight to Dubai. With a heart still filled with curiosity, she chose to sit for a moment in her chair after completing her cabin duties. She opened the translated Quran application that she had previously downloaded and started reading from the first chapter, Al-Fatiha. Every word felt new to her, even though she had not fully understood it. When she read the translation of the last verse, "Guide us to the straight path," it felt like the prayer reflected what she needed in her life, a clear and meaningful path. But she did not discuss this with anyone. She kept all her questions and curiosity to herself, afraid of being seen as strange by her colleagues. Upon arrival in Dubai, Emma and some of the airline crew decided to use their free time by taking a trip to the desert. This was not the first time Emma went to the desert, but there was something different this time. When they arrived, the sky started to change color to golden orange, giving a stunning view. The warm desert wind blew gently, bringing an unusual sense of peace. Emma, who was usually busy taking photos or chatting with her friends, chose to walk alone, away from the crowd. Emma sat on a sand dune looking at the horizon that seemed endless. There was a peace that flowed like a soft whisper. She felt as if the vast sky, the earth, and everything in between were controlled by something greater than herself. For the first time, she felt that maybe there was something bigger than her, something that created this beauty. The guide, a local man named Ahmed, approached Emma, who was sitting alone. Looking at her pensive face, Ahmed said softly, "The desert does make us feel small, doesn't it?" Emma smiled. "Yes, I feel as small as this." Ahmed continued, "That's the beauty of the universe. When we see it, we know this is not a coincidence. The beautiful sky, the endless sand, the stars that guide, everything is a sign of something greater." Emma listened intently. The conversation with Ahmed left her thinking deeply. With a pounding heart, she opened the Quran application on her phone and began reading again. She whispered to herself, "Maybe I have found the truth, but what should I do now?" After the profound experience in Dubai, Emma felt more connected to her search for the truth, but she was still filled with doubts. A feeling of curiosity continued to bother her mind. However, she had the courage to be ready for the next flight, this time to Istanbul. This route is often full of passengers from various backgrounds, including Muslim families who embark on the journey. While welcoming passengers, Emma noticed a little girl, around 10 years old, sitting with her mother in the front row. The girl was carrying a small green book with the word M written on the cover, which seemed familiar to Emma. During the flight, Emma's curiosity about the little girl grew. When passing the girl's seat to provide service, Emma heard the girl reading something in a low voice. After ensuring everything was fine, Emma stopped and smiled. "What are you doing?" Emma asked. The little girl raised her small green book proudly and said, "This is the Quran. Do you know about the Quran?" Emma was surprised by the question. "I have heard about it," she replied hesitantly, "but I don't know much." The girl smiled broadly. "This is a gift from Allah for all of us. I love reading it because it's the word of Allah." Those words touched Emma deeply. She didn't know what to say. She had never thought of scriptures as something personal. Listening to the girl, Emma felt her eyes start to water. She didn't expect that someone she had just met could speak so softly yet so profoundly. The girl's mother, sitting nearby, handed Emma the small Quran with trembling hands. "I don't want to take something so valuable from you," Emma said. "There is nothing more valuable than giving someone the path to truth," the mother replied. Emma held the small Quran, feeling as if she was holding something far greater than a book. When she returned to her seat, she couldn't stop thinking about the mother's words. She opened the Quran and started reading page by page. "Maybe this is a new beginning," Emma thought. "I need to know what's in it." After returning from the flight to Istanbul, Emma began reading the small Quran every night. She would read several verses of its translation, seeking the peace she had never experienced before. However, Emma was still confused. She didn't fully understand the contents of the book and felt the need for guidance. Even though she was afraid, she knew this was just the start of her journey. About the big changes that might happen in her life if she really understood what she was learning that night, Emma had another dream. This time, she was in a very wide desert with a dark sky and strong winds. She was walking alone, feeling lost, but in the distance she saw a bright and warm light. Emma tried to walk towards the light, but every time she took a step, the distance felt further away. She felt hopeless, almost giving up, until finally she heard a soft voice that said, "Don't stop looking for me. I am always with you." The light got closer, illuminating everything around her. Emma woke up with tears in her eyes. "I know this is a call," she thought, "a call to go far. I will be happy to know the truth." Smiling to herself, she whispered, "Of course, this is a sign from Allah." Emma began to reflect deeply. What she was experiencing felt like a sign that God was calling her to know Him. She decided not to be afraid to love, to seek the truth, and to open her heart. With the help of Sarah, a friend who guided her, Emma felt lighter. There was a new feeling filling her heart, as if she was stepping towards something right. She was no longer afraid like before, even though questions and doubts still occasionally approached her. When she received a new flight assignment to Istanbul, Emma felt that there was something special about this trip. Istanbul, a city famous for its Islamic history, had long attracted her attention, especially because of the magnificent Blue Mosque. She didn't know what was waiting for her there, but she felt like something was about to change her life. On the flight to Istanbul, Emma met a young Muslim passenger named Hassan. Hassan was a student from Turkey who had just finished his studies in Paris. When Emma served his meal, Hassan smiled and said politely, "Thank you, miss. May Allah bless you." Emma was surprised to hear those words. "Thank you," she replied with a smile, but her curiosity grew. During the flight, their conversation deepened. Hassan shared his thoughts about Islam, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and the peace he found in his faith. "If you seek the truth with a sincere heart," Hassan said gently, "you will find it. There is no compulsion in Islam, and every journey to the truth is unique." Before landing, Hassan recommended, "If you have time in Istanbul, visit the Blue Mosque. Feel the atmosphere. Maybe it will help you find the answers you're seeking." When Emma arrived in Istanbul, she decided to take some free time after the flight to visit the Blue Mosque. She wore modest clothing, as Sarah had suggested, and walked toward the mosque with mixed feelings. As she entered the courtyard of the Blue Mosque, Emma felt like she was stepping into another world. The magnificent architecture, the calm atmosphere, and the soft chanting of the call to prayer gave her goosebumps. Standing at the entrance, hesitant to go further, A Muslim woman approached her with a warm smile. "It's your first time here?" the woman asked kindly. Emma nodded and the woman extended her hand. "Come, I will show you around." Inside the mosque, Emma was amazed by the high ceilings, the beautiful hanging lamps, and the red carpet covering the floor. The woman explained, "This is a place to communicate directly with Allah. You can sit here and think. It's okay if you just want to be silent and observe." Emma found a quiet spot, watching people prostrate themselves in prayer. She whispered, "God, if you are there, show me. I want to experience this." With a deep sense of longing, she felt the urge to try to prostrate, placing her forehead on the carpet and closing her eyes. At that moment, a heavy burden seemed to lift from her heart. She didn't fully understand what she was doing, but she felt peace. When she rose, she had tears in her eyes and a small smile on her face. "Maybe I have found my answer," she whispered. After leaving the Blue Mosque, Emma felt calmer than before. She couldn't forget the moment she prostrated, even without knowing the correct procedure or prayer. In that silence, she spoke directly to God. That night, she spent her time reading a small Quran that she had received on the plane. Each verse became more meaningful after her experience in the mosque. When she came across Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 2, it resonated deeply with her. This is the book about which there is no doubt a guidance for those conscious of Allah. They are the ones who are planning to do this. Is this true for me? Ready everything. I think it's time for her flight to Istanbul. Emma is going back to work as usual. This time she felt more peaceful while serving passengers. But after her busy schedule, her mind kept going back to the moment when she was resting. She chatted with Sarar. "I went to the Blue Mosque when I was in Istanbul," said Emma, smiling, her eyes sparkling. "It's a beautiful place. How do you feel there?" Creating this experience also expressed how much she prostrated, even though she didn't know if she was doing it right. The direction resonates softly. Prostration is a beautiful form of servitude. When we put our foreheads on the ground, we surrender all our pride, fear, and awe to Allah. That moment when we raise the words of Subhana Rabbiyal A'la brings closeness. As time went on, Emma started to get more connected with Islam and became more pious. She also began to understand the little things that were happening. Emma became a Penang resident. She was in a situation where on one hand, she felt at peace. But on the other hand, this journey would not be easy. She realized that, in the end, she had to make a big decision about her faith. It might change everything that had come before. She reflected, "Do not be ashamed of what has been written." Surah Al-Fil, verse 30, echoed in her mind. With tears in her eyes, Emma confessed her sins and began to face the fact that her spiritual journey was not entirely understood by her surroundings. Even though she was close to Islam, she also began to feel tension from the outside world. The most famous saying echoed, "Back to Paris for a short vacation." Emma was satisfied to express her feelings. "This is my step." Emma's work also began to face comments from some of her co-workers, who noticed the changes in her. One of her friends, Claire, asked jokingly, "Why do you suddenly look more serious, Emma? Don't tell me you want to become a priest or something." Emma tried to ignore the comment, but Claire kept insisting. "I heard from Sarah that you are studying Islam." "Seriously, Emma? What do you think? Religion is too strict. It's not you." Emma tried to explain that she was just looking for peace in her life, but Claire didn't understand. "You already have everything. Why are you looking for something that will limit your freedom?" That comment stabbed Emma's heart, but she remained silent. She knew they wouldn't understand what she was feeling. Emma began to feel alone. She felt alienated from her family and even from the world that seemed open. But in the midst of her solitude, she found comfort in prayer. The words of Allah gave her strength. "We will truly test you with a little fear, hunger, lack of wealth in souls and fruits, but give good news to the patient." Al-Quran, Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 155. This verse gave Emma the strength to endure. She realizes that every test she experiences is part of her spiritual journey. She decides to talk to Sarah about what she is experiencing. As a proud person, very wise and loving, maybe this can help. Agree. Even though Hayai Diukian "This is Bes Yangam," she said that night, upset. "Tid, with all my heart. God, I know you are testing me. I'll give up because I know that you are always with me." With tears flowing, Emma feels her heart return calm. She knows that this test is only the beginning of a greater journey towards the light of truth. After getting support from Sarah, Emma agrees to meet with a cleric who is known to be wise and friendly. The meeting is arranged at a small mosque in Paris, where Emma can talk privately without interruption. When Emma felt nervous, but so did Itua with Wahoo, and came to me Sankao Emitjalnya Darule Singingam, usually at the Blue Mosque. She also expressed her doubts and fears, especially about how her family and friends would react if she decided to convert to Islam. The cleric listened attentively, then said, "Every journey toward the truth is unique. Nothing is easy, but Allah is always with those who seek it. Ask as many questions as you need about Islam. What is it that troubles you?" Her heart was beating fast. She knew this was a big decision, one that would change her life forever. Yet she also felt it was the right one. With a trembling voice, she said, "I want to embrace it, but I'm afraid of what will happen. I know nothing is perfect." The cleric responded gently, "Allah does not expect perfection. He loves a sincere heart. By saying the Shahada, you will not become perfect, but you will begin your journey as a servant of Allah, loved by Him." With tears welling up in her eyes, she finally decided to say the Shahada. Several witnesses stood by as the scholar guided her. She repeated the words, "Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah." I testify that there is no God but Allah, and I testify that Muhammad is the messenger of Allah. As she uttered those words, she felt something she had never felt before, a deep peace and tranquility washing over her. The attendees, moved by emotion, congratulated her on this life-changing event. Among those present was Sarah, who had supported her through the journey. Sarah smiled with tears in her eyes, saying, "This is just the beginning. May Allah guide you and grant you strength." Later, as she tried to perform the dawn prayer for the first time, she recalled Sarah's guidance. Though her movements were imperfect, her heart was connected to the Creator. In her prostration, she whispered, "O Allah, here I am. Guide me, for I am yours." Not long after, she decided to embrace modest clothing. Though she had not yet fully adopted the hijab, her co-workers noticed the change. One joked, "Emma, you've become so conservative. What happened to you?" Emma simply smiled and replied, "I'm just trying to live my life in a more meaningful way." Not all comments were negative. Some colleagues supported her, especially Sarah, who constantly encouraged her. Step by step, Emma continued her journey with newfound purpose and faith. Emma's relationship with her mother remains a big challenge. Her mother has not fully accepted Emma's decision, but Emma does not give up on establishing communication. One night, Emma wrote a letter to her mother, trying to explain her feelings. "Mom, I know this decision is difficult for you to understand, but I want you to know. I'm sorry. I want to become a person who is still my mother's child, who is always there and meaningful. I know that this journey requires patience." As a new Muslim woman, Emma began to use her job as a flight attendant to spread kindness. She served passengers with more friendliness and attention, hoping that her attitude could be an example of the loving teachings of Islam. On a flight, a Muslim passenger noticed a small Quran that Emma kept in her uniform pocket. "You are a Muslim?" asked the passenger. Emma smiled and nodded. "Just now I am still learning," she said. The passenger smiled and said, "Welcome to the big family of Islam. May your journey always be blessed." Those words strengthened Emma to continue on her next journey to Istanbul. Emma decided to return to the Blue Mosque. This time she came with a different feeling. She sat inside the mosque, wearing a simple hijab that she bought in a local shop, and read the Quran. When she prostrated, she felt really close to Allah. She whispered, "Hiya, thank you God for bringing me to this. I have established a new life, which was only as a flight attendant, but now has a spirit. I am now living life as a Muslima, with a heart full of gratitude. I will continue to learn, keep fighting, and hopefully this video will be useful." This is the end of our video. If you enjoy Islamic content like this, don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next video.